All right. We have a few people on, and I think we can get started. Um, Thank you, everyone, for being here today. Thank you especially to Professor Bello for joining us today. It's such an honor. Um, just a little quick overview of what's happening tonight. Way Magazine is a Haitian American online platform, and we make content in English and Creole, all things Haiti, but we have a personal love for Haitian history. So a lot of our content centers around that. I'm Natalie. I'm one of the co-founders of WOY. We started this in 2015, and we've just been going strong since then. And this is Valerie, our co-editor. Want to say a few words, Val?
Yes, I'm so excited for tonight. I've been writing for WOY for what feels like forever now, but officially joined last year as an editor and a curator of our newsletter, I should say our beloved newsletter. And I think I'm so excited for tonight because like Tally, I have such a love for Haitian history, but in particular, I've always been fascinated about where women sit in this long history. And if you know me, you know I love Professor Bello. So having the chance to talk to her about her book is definitely a treat for me. And I think we should move forward with officially introducing our guest.
Yes.
I can kick it off by reading her bio, but Professor Bello, we would also love to hear from you because no one can speak better about themselves than the person. So to kick it off, Professor Bayyinah Bello is a respected historian, teacher, writer, advocate, and founder of the Fondation Marie-Claire Heureuse Félicité Bonheur Dessalines, an organization dedicated to humanitarian, social, and educational work for the people of Haiti. Professor Bello has lived in Liberia, Nigeria, and Togo, and is fluent in Creole, Francais, English, Arabic, and Hausa. A leading historian and anthropologist on Haiti, she has published several articles and books, with the latest being Sheroes of the Haitian Revolution. Thank you, Professor Bello, for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So for people who are not familiar with you and your work, can you basically tell them who you are and why Haitian history is just so important to you?
Well, I'm Haitian, number one. And I've always been fascinated by history. In fact, I do not say history because once you say this, you're already saying you're just talking about his stories. So, since I'm interested in our history, that's what I say. And as I began, for my first experience was while in school in France, maybe 14. The social studies book said, America, they have the list, and look at the content, table of content. And of course, I see America. And so I jumped into the page of the continent of America to look for Haiti. And Haiti, there's one sentence: Haiti, French colony, period. Wow. Finish. And when I said to the teacher, but that's not so, he says, you didn't see who wrote this book? Dr. So-and-so and so-and-so and so. Approved by the Academy of History and Geography, blah, blah, blah. Haiti is not a colony. Anyway, I was kicked out for 2 weeks.
Wow.
And had to prove what I was saying before I could return. And so that's when I suppose I officially began, searching for our history. And as there was hardly anything in no libraries, nothing, went back and forth looking. In the end, I went to the embassy and they looked at me like, what's your problem? So I took a couple of brochures that I saw there. Then it occurred to me as I left the embassy, I saw somebody in the street with a Polaroid camera. That's something that makes pictures, instant pictures. Mm-hmm. So I asked them if they would make a picture for me. So I took the facade of the embassy.
Mm.
And then I went back trying to figure out how am I going to do this thing. I have to give 1,000 words. Well, I sat down and I recited everything I had learned by heart years ago. So it saved me that day. I gave my 1,000 words and a couple of pictures and a picture, a photocopy of my passport.
Mm.
They didn't even look at it. Took it, threw it on the desk, and said, "You can go to class." So I
Wow.
was more than vexed. And that's when I decided that it will never happen to me again, that someone can even have me doubt something I know, like Haiti is not a colony. And somebody dares to contradict me on this. So from this point on, I became fascinated with everything that is about us, about our people, wherever we may be. So I was constantly searching. And as this evolved, I reached a point where I started questioning about, well, where are the women? Because
Yeah.
everything was he did, he did, he did, he did, he did. Maybe God didn't create women yet in the 1800s. So I started questioning about that. And it took a long time before I started finding information. And the very
Mm.
first book that really opened the way for me was a book by Marceau Louis.
Mm.
Marceau Louis was a Haitian man, ambassador of Haiti in DC and different places. And so he wrote about the women of Haiti. There's a whole book about Empress Felicite. He wrote a book about Queen Marie Louise. And I said, wow, we had queens, we had empresses, and, you know, never saw that in no history manual in school.
Yeah.
The manuals in school didn't tell us about those things. So then that really triggered me, and I went from everywhere I go, I look for, you know, whatever. Where are the women? Were they doing? And so
Mhm.
it's this book is a resume of my book that probably will come out this year. It's about 300 pages on the women of Haiti.
Mm.
But this is like sort of the business card to present and say, hey,
Or
they're there, you know.
the
It's the
So
brochure.
appetizer.
yeah, the trailer.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I'm curious about your process. Um, and I'm curious if maybe, I'm sorry, this is kind of not in our question, but I'm curious since you brought this up, if there may be like sources that you value that aren't usually valued by like traditional scholarly work that gives a,
Absolutely. Many people have written, but it's as if you write about the women, and it's sort of a side story. It's sort of a coffee table talk. That's not serious history. For it to be history, gotta be masculine.
Mhm.
I think that's how the mindsets are.
Mhm.
And that's why, even in pretty popular books, you will find there was no way to absolutely erase us. There was no way.
Right.
So you will find information about, but let's say in a 400 page book, and you will find one little sentence about this woman, one little sentence there, but they will never try to tell you, here is what she did from A to Z. The way that they go after explaining the actions of males,
Mhm.
you know.
Right.
So, and it is very sad because it, the artistry builds who you are. So if little girls at 3 and 4 were learning about Empress Felicite, how brave she was when she goes out and help people wherever, whatever the sickness may be, she's never afraid to go among people and bring, she's her thing is health, education, and justice.
Mm-hmm.
Those are her areas. She's not taking no guns. She's not about fighting and shooting. She's totally against that. And married to a military man.
Yeah.
Mhm. And so clear about her position when they first established the capital immediately after independence. They chose to create a capital from nothing. They didn't want to go into a colonist city. So they started from scratch the new capital, which is today the town of Dessalines.
Mm-hmm.
So when they went there and started building and creating this town, she made her house 2 streets down from his house,
Wow.
because she would say he is a fighter. He has here to fight to bring us to freedom, and he still has to fight to maintain the freedom.
Right.
Me, I'm about education, health, and justice. So I do not need any guns around me. His house has to be an arsenal.
Yeah.
So I am fascinated by this woman's ability to be so clear on what her mission is and to be so clear on the respect that is due to other people's mission, which
Right.
may be totally not your thing. But then they're not asking you to do what they have to do. So if today we had learned that lesson, for example, from this woman, that everyone is free to do what they have to, whatever their mission is. And even if I'm married to you, I am not uh, obligated to go your way. I have to be me, you have to be you. And to
Mm.
me, that's one of the best lessons that we could draw from this particular couple, you know, and throughout her life. Even if the emperor was, even in public, if the emperor said something that wasn't correct when judged at the constitutional yardstick, she would not hesitate. Excuse me, Majesty. Our Constitution says in Article 242, blah, 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 blah.
Nice.
The emperor would have to, he would go, well, what I meant to say was, and he would correct himself.
What do you think it says about us as a culture and a people that we don't know these stories, we don't know these anecdotes? Because I will say one character who stood out to me in the book was Aunt Toya. Like from the moment I read about her, I loved her, and I never once thought, and I think it goes back to something you said about how we are uh, taught to think about these things. I never once thought, like, who did raise Dessalines? Like, who were the people who formed his ideas about liberty and justice? So, what do you think it says about us that we are now learning all of this 200 plus years later? Well, most of us.
Well, the easiest way to destroy a people is to destroy their artistry. Once somebody messes up with your artistry, and you can no longer be who you truly is.
Mm.
And that's the problem. You know, things that we invented, we could say that IT, in a world of slavery, IT invented freedom.
Yep.
The whole world conceived that there was no other place for a Black person to be but a slave. And all the theories and hypotheses and declarations of that time would say, you know, well, Black folks have no soul, Black folks are incapable of learning, Black folks are blah, blah, we can't. That's the list. Well, when IT did what she did, she demonstrated you people are all wrong.
Yep.
Okay? White supremacy, that's what IT did to white supremacy. Okay? You know, oh, white, no, there's everything we do is good, blah, 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 nobody can counter. The Spaniards in Haiti got whooped by the Haitian army. The British came and tried to take the island, beating just as bad. The French doubled, tripled the number of troops, crushed. So we didn't buy, and we know so little about our history. We often think, yeah, we beat the French. We didn't just beat the French. You beat the three largest, most forceful armies in the world at the time,
Yep.
and you don't know that. So take yourself for who you are. You
Yeah.
have an image that your enemy placed in your brain. Oh, we can't do this. This little country from the no, you're not yourself. So we seriously need to get back to really study our own artistry and our own perception of that artistry, not just the facts, but the facts told in the way we would told within our cultural norms. That's the way it has to be done. And
Yeah.
that's a big job,
Yeah.
a very big job. And we don't yet have the day we would have a government, then that government would know step one in IT is get the right artistry and put it at every level.
Yeah.
You
Who's your
imagine
favorite figure in the book?
go ahead. No, go ahead.
Who's your favorite
Go ahead.
figure in the book?
I don't have any favorite. I think each of those women are very powerful and they are who they are and they have accomplished their mission. That's what's most important. The key thing for us to understand is that everyone comes on this earth with a mission.
Mhm.
And it's not who you are, she's pretty, she's this. No, that's not it. But are you working at your mission? And do you get to accomplish your mission? Now, we have missions and we have passions. Do you put your passion at the service of your mission?
Mm.
Because the key, you see, if each one of us, the passions will make us different. That's part of what makes our diversity. But the mission is it's one for us all, no matter how it's expressed for each one of us. See, a dancer can make a fabulous dance on Battle of Vertières. A sewing person can make outfits on Battle of Vertières or Victory or whatever. The singer can sing about Vertières. The poet can write about different elements of IT. So all of us can have different expressions, but ultimately we're all about putting IT in her right place, being ourselves so IT can be in her right place. So once the history is messed up with, then we don't know what our missions are.
Mm.
And we're busy copying others. And that will get us nowhere.
I agree. So I think I told you in our previous conversation that for the first quarter of 2021, Roy is looking to kind of demystify some of the notions that we have as Haitians. Like we ran an article pushing back on the narrative, "Mikwa patouye paysan," because that's something I grew up hearing or something Tally grew up hearing, and we wanted to talk about that. So I would love to hear from you. What do you think is the greatest myth or mistruth that we currently hold as a people in general? And what is one you think that we hold about our women?
I don't know that I would say what you said is a myth.
Mm.
I think we need to understand better what we say when we say them and not look at them in the prism of other cultures. You know, um, in fact, before even talking about Mikwo Batouye Paysan, we also say Petite c'est richesse malheureux.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
All right. And a lot of people today, have gone to school, say, oh, that don't make no sense. Da, 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 da. But
Yeah.
that is real.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
If I have one child, this child becomes sick, child dies, that's the end of that. If I have one child does not work well in school, does not accomplish anything, does not accomplish his mission, that's the end of that. But if I have four children, I have a chance that one of them will succeed.
Mm-hmm.
If I have 13, I have a greater chance that there'll be somebody that will make it. So, yes, petite, c'est richesse, malheureux. And I have an example. In Nigeria, there was a man called MKO Abiola. MKO Abiola is the 13th child of his mother, the 13th child for his mom, 27th child for his father.
Wow.
And he is the eldest child. How come?
He takes
is
care
his
of
mother. All the ones before him died.
Wow.
Right.
So he is his mother's 13th child, but yet the oldest child.
Yeah.
Is the first one who survived. So after him, others survived. But prior to him, all those born before him were dead. Now, this man grew to become, I won't go through all the details. He went through a lot of difficult moments, but he managed to go through school, finish school, get a diploma, go to England, to Oxford, got a PhD, became a big time, blah, blah, blah. Came back home, built the first house that his mom would live in, did a lot of things for his family, became a multi-millionaire. And here's somebody who, for example, if every year would give to a country, he might offer to Benin 100 kilometers of road. He might offer to this other country a hospital, to this other country, whatever, whatever. So you don't think children are the wealth to poor families?
Yeah.
One child won't make it. One child dead. That's the end of the story. And there are many chances for the one child to die in a poor family. So, now, Miko Batouye Patouye Malheureux, Patouye Haitian. So, what is it that we call Miko? Bacteries, right? Bacteries are in our bodies all the time. And the same bacteria that will make you sick is also in your body necessary for you to stay alive. Just like viruses. It's not something that comes from out the world. These are things that we live with every day. But there might be one particular, in a particular moment, that they talk about as if it was something from out of this world, but all of it is in our body. So, what are people saying? Yeah, bacteria are everywhere. We don't need to go hide and have a big, panic about it. Nah. What don't kill you makes you fat. Bacteria do that too. Microbe pas touye person. Et pas microbe kap tou yo, mais c'est une combinaison ça ka privé entre microbe lan et moment qu'on la donne. C'est quand kou virus la kounye la, moun ki gen système immunitaire yo faible, eh ben virus ça gen plus chance pour le voyo aller. Mais tout l'autre yo qui ont bon système, eh bien, y a vive à microbe blanc, y a croisé un moun qui gagne maladie, y a soigné moun qui gagne maladie, et puis yo la pirate. Microbe pas touye yo. Ni virus, ni bactérie pas touye, mais c'est pas un poison qui sort un côté qui vient faire un bagay. C'est dedans qu'on lié.
D'accord. So So then I think a question that brings up for me is, do you think, especially in the diaspora, do you think that there is a miscommunication of sorts with how we've been communicating our history, our stories, our culture to the next generation? Because, you know, proverb sayo, Powell sayo, a lot of people in our generation don't hear them. And if they do, they don't understand them. Tokus also de timun se richesse, you know, no one, I'm pretty sure for a lot of viewers tonight, this is the first time they've heard somebody break it down like that. So do you think that there has been over the years a great miscommunication with how we've been teaching the culture and maintaining the culture between, you know, between the generations?
Well, cultures are not taught. Cultures are not taught.
Hmm.
Nobody sat you down and said, "Ouke petit chita pou ma pou nou pali Creole." Répétez après ma tante. No one tells you that. They just go about their business, and then you capturing. In fact, for example, the language, which is one element, the third element of culture, language, you just pick it up, you start picking it up in your mother's belly
Yeah.
before you're born. At birth, we could speak the language, except that we don't have the right muscles, we don't have everything formed, the jaws are not yet connected, etc., etc. That's why you can't pronounce nothing. But you know exactly what's going on because you learned it already in your mother's belly. When Natalie, who's always, when your mom was pregnant, she comes and she always have an argument with your mom. And me, when I come to visit her, we get along fine. Well, when you're born, when Natalie tried to touch you, you scream and yell. You heard that voice before. This is the woman who argues with your mom.
Mhm.
You don't have nothing to do with her. When I pick you up, I'm very happy. So we speak before we are born. We speak our mother tongue. So culture is transmitted, but not educated. We are culture. Now, what the problem is the school. Because in any country who's serious about preserving their culture and keeping their people focused on their culture, the culture is not something different from the schooling. The schooling is just a codified expression of the culture.
Hmm.
There's no difference between a Frenchman who went to school and a Frenchman who didn't go to school. They both speak French. They both like cheese. They both like white wine and red wines and blah, 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 blah. It doesn't matter. The very rich Frenchman drinks wine. The very poor French person drink wine because the culture is one.
Yep.
And what they learn in school is still their culture, just put in different way. Okay. And the same is true for any country that you think. Now, in our case, we won the war against these people in 1803.
Mhm.
And in 1860, they said, so 56 years later, unless you accept, you sign this concordat with the church, you will not, we will not recognize your independence. If it was somebody like me, I would say, I don't give a hoop about your recognition. I
Right.
am that I am.
Yeah.
Yep.
You can drink your recognition for all I care. Okay? But we didn't have that kind of people. And so in that concordat that we signed, that the government signed, Article 12 says we give monopoly of instruction to the church.
Yeah.
Monopoly. That
Wow.
means only the church will decide what goes in the brain of a Haitian child. And what is the church? The church is French. The people you just whipped a few years back. So that was a formula to regain control of IT, to collect the minds of our people, so that the kind of spirit and mind that we had at the time of the revolution, once they start creating school, they're going to undo it. They're going to
Mm.
de-Haitianize Haitians and turn us into puppets, whatever.
Yeah.
Because it certainly didn't make us French, but they
No.
turned us into something that doesn't even know what it is.
Hmm.
And that's the problem.
Yeah.
Culture never dies, it's still there. Even if we don't know it, even those of us who pretend, oh, pas parler créole encore, pas qu'un parler créole. That's
So,
fine. Pas manger maï mollet, pas ici, pas là-bas. That's fine.
Moi, c'est my moulin pour yo.
Mais même tout. Moi, j'ai bien. Et, but the funniest thing is, the person, when you see those people acting that way, it's not their fault.
yeah.
They went to a system that messed up with their minds. But let them find themselves in a situation. You'll be surprised how Haitian they become.
So
Mhm.
what role do you think a book like yours helps to rectify a situation like that? You know, what is the biggest myth your book dispels? Is that a word?
I would say the first thing is that most people, when they think his story, they don't think woman.
Yeah.
And so it just, that's the first thing. It's sort of, even I even feel, but some people even tell me, where are the men? I said, look at the title of the book. She, oh, I didn't see it was she wrote. Even when we don't read, we see what we know should be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Uh, Very often, when I take, for example, the picture of Sanit Belair, for example, Lieutenant Sanit Belair.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? She's in uniform. People don't see a woman. It's a man. Ah, she's a woman too. Yeah. Her name is Sanit. And you see, she's got earrings. She's got this, she's got that. Mm-hmm. She's a woman.
She was there too.
But things are so set in people's minds.
Mm-hmm.
Even when we look, we don't see what is there. We see what we know should be there.
Right.
So that's the big job that we have to do. Stop
Yeah.
seeing what's not there and question everything so we can get to what they don't want us to know.
Yeah. I'm curious, after the revolution, women like Sanit
Mhm.
Belia and um, what can you tell us about the role women played in nation building after the revolution?
Women were involved in everything. If you take Dessalines' government, you will find many women involved. People like Afemi Dagi, a woman from
Mm.
Okai. She was director of secret police.
Oh, okay.
It is thanks to her that he wasn't killed in September when he was in the South.
Wow.
Um, we have people like the director of finance under King Henry had a lot of women in his government,
Mhm.
a lot of women in the army.
Mm.
In fact, the head of the army was a woman that most people called her, generally referred to as Tiwa. So King Henry is the king, and she is the little king. Whatever she says
Wow.
goes. But hey, in the day-to-day manuals and books, they don't see her.
Yeah.
You know? We even have people who go to the length of saying, for example, if you take the um, Royal Almanac, published every year by King Henry, who was a very disciplined and structured man. So you could see the names of all the tons and tons of the people in the army. Well, some historian wants to say, well, it's not that they were women, it's just that some men had female names.
Mm.
Mm.
Excuse me. So they look for everything to erase us because
Wow.
in their mind, they just cannot accept the things that women did. Okay? You take a woman like Marie Jeanne, who had who headed the spy bureau of Haiti even prior to independence, and had more than 2,000 spies working for her across the world.
Wow.
So if Spain was planning or plotting something, was about to send 10, 15 boats to the place, well, she already has the information. And it was thanks to her information she fed the generals, enabling them to take the right decisions and set up the right strategies. Without somebody like Marie-Jeanne, I don't see how we were going to win any kind of a war.
Hmm.
Wow. That is so fascinating.
Yeah. I
Um,
never heard any of this. Yeah.
so I want to briefly turn to the work you've been doing through your fondation. I think that so many of us know about the Subjumu efforts that you do every year, pour 1er janvier. But I would love to hear about why did you start the foundation and what are some other works that you are doing through that medium?
Avec Fondation Marie-Claire Heureuse Félicité Bonheur des Salines was created in 1999. So we've been around for 21 years. And we created it because after looking at what they gave us as our artistry, we said we needed a structure that would do the proper research and publish as much as possible on every form, every kind of media, put the information out for the people. Okay? So, because artistry is the best way to build identity. And the
Mhm.
problem is we're losing our identity. So we created the foundation. We have a lot of young people who come in as volunteers because we don't have any kind of financing. So they come in as volunteers, they help with everything that has to be done in the foundation. The administration, the research, the presentations, whatever we have to do. A lot of young folks participate in making it happen. Uh, as we, as the foundation evolved, nothing has changed except that we are working even harder to get the things we need done. For example, one of our goals about 10 years ago is to create a series about Empress Felicite, a
Mm.
woman who went from slave to empress and who lived 110 years
Wow.
as and who did extraordinary things. This woman learned to read and write while in slavery. This woman taught so many people how to read and write. She she's she has a strength of character, though being a very soft-spoken, very calm person. She has a strong character. Imagine, oh, a slaver just bought you. You were purchased because you want a woman. So he take you to his house and then ask the other women slaves to clean that thing up for him.
Mm.
So two women, the practice was the two women would take you and they will scrub you almost like if there was Clorox, they probably would pour over your skin
Mm.
and get you ready because you're going in the room of the master, blah, 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 blah. So they do what they have to do, wrap you in um, this cloth, and then take you to the door. The oldest one will take you to the door of the slaver. Before she knocks, she would say, "Now, when you get inside, put the sheet on the floor, lay on your back, open your legs. Don't you give the master a hard time, girl." And then she knocks, push your back, push you in, and go away. So here you are. Clara was, she stood there. She says, "Didn't they tell you what to do?" Yes, they did. Well, well, if you want to know the woman that lives here, you're going to marry me. Slave woman I just bought talking to me about marriage. What kind of nonsense is this? But that was it. She didn't brunch. This is it. That's the only condition for you to touch me. Ultimately, they had the conversation several times. Each time he kick her away, kick her out. Oh, she must be a crazy woman. What kind of slave person is thinking that way, talking that way? Ultimately, he paid two judges and he married her. See? And the lesson for us, it doesn't matter what situation you're in life, but what is your determination? How is your mindset about that situation? That's what will make the difference. Even in the worst slavery situation, you find people whose will for something else always took them to where they want to go. Of course, we understand slavers would never want to put that in the history books for us, or for us all to know that no matter what, if you set your goals, you can get to it.
Yeah.
That's what it is. So all her life, everything about this woman, that's the way it went. When she married Dessalines, when he first asked her to marry him, she said, "No, you don't see who's here. I'm the future liberator of this country. I am. She said, "Yeah, I know. You have a child with Natalie, and you have another one with her cousin." So, but he insisted. And she says, "All right, if I would marry you, you would have to agree to 4 conditions." He said, "No problem. Tell me." Number one, you will take all your children to the notary public and recognize them. Children should not live without knowing who their father is. He said, "Oh, that's easy. No problem. I'll do it." All right. Number two, you will give to the mothers means to raise the children properly. A liberator shouldn't have his child all over the place. He says, "Well, I'll take out of what I was going to give you to give them." She said, "That's fine. The children, that's us tomorrow." Number three, just because you become enemy to someone, that doesn't mean I have to be an enemy to this person. "Oh, you don't understand what I'm doing. What you're saying there, so that Rochambeau or Leclerc, I could come to my house and find them sitting here talking to you." She said, "Yes, possible." Excuse me.
It's okay.
He said, "Really? Yeah. If we are to marry, just because you're an enemy, I don't have to." And she explained her position also, saying, in the world that you're in, both military and politics, there are lots of lies. So you might be enemy to someone on the wrong, with wrong information. So if in a family there is only one head, when that head makes a mistake, the whole family crumbles. But if there are two heads, when one makes a mistake, the other one corrects it. He said, "What you said is correct. I agree. Write it, I will sign." So, that's the kind of woman we know, a woman of character. After they killed Dessalines, she wrote to one of the killers, who was just named Minister of War and um, Marine, Marine and War, Guérin. She wrote a letter to him saying, well, I thought after the horrible crime you committed, you would put yourself aside and stay quiet. But I see you continue to talk about a man who has done nothing but good for this country.
Mm.
And she ends it by, I want you to know. I was saying I was not gonna respond to you, but I do want you to know that I think you are nothing but a vulgar criminal
Wow.
and no good can come out of you. She wrote it, signed it, sent to him.
Wow.
Okay? She's not afraid of anybody.
Right.
Right.
So that's the kind of people we are. But when we don't know how we were in the past, it's difficult to figure out how to be in the present.
Yeah.
That's why it's so important for us all to really search and know our strength.
So I actually have a question from the audience. And it's so interesting that you would tell us this story because when the person initially sent this question, I was like, I don't know if I want to even ask Professor Bello this question. But the person says, quote, can you please ask her about the romantic relationships that these women had with such men as Toussaint, Dessalines, and Christophe? Would she say that they had, quote unquote, loving marriages as these were men who had mistresses with whom they had children?
Well, first of all, she makes a blanket assumption that couldn't possibly be true. They cannot have mistresses and they cannot all have children with it. That's not so. Okay? So, for my research, yes, Dessalines had several women who had children for him prior to his marriage to Marie Claire Rose. That's why at the moment of marriage, they are discussing those children
Mm-hmm.
and those women. And he is a very honest person. He's not going about saying, oh, no, these are not my children. He said, yeah, these are my children. Okay. And she says, well, they should be recognized. We shouldn't have the children just going about not knowing who their father is. There should be legal papers recognized, which is very okay. Number two, people like Toussaint, for example. Now, I'm not saying none of these people were saints or whatever. That's not what I'm talking about. But people like Toussaint, he's well known for he always, wherever he's going, he's with his wife prior to him being in the revolution. Once he was in the revolution, his wife had her own opinion. She didn't want no part of certain things. But for example, when he became the governor general of the island, she refused to move into the governor's mansion with him.
Mm.
She says, no, I don't think this thing would be good for us. If you're going to go by yourself. I'll stay here in my house that I know. So we were talking about women of character who knew what they wanted in life. Did Toussaint had mistresses? I don't know. He had adventures, possible. But mistresses that everybody knows, this is his wife, this is his mistress, and this woman. No, I have not seen that. And we can also say that to say somebody, for example, all these men are men who were chased after by women. Some women love to chase anybody in uniforms, and some women chase after people, high-ranked people. So yes, women were after them. And there are several situations where some white woman, wore, she had all her breasts out, she's coming on to say, and Toussaint took out his handkerchief. He said, I'm afraid you might catch cold. You think you should cover this blanket thing and said all these men had messages, and I don't know. I have not seen that. Okay. There are people who had the reputation, people like Capua, The Kapwa is unmarried and he's good looking. Woo, man, he's good looking. So lots of people who went after him really probably enjoyed him.
Yeah.
We cannot systematically blanket statement say all of them had. I can't say
So,
Um,
oh, go ahead, Tally.
okay, yeah, sure. Another question that was submitted by audience was, what challenges have you faced in trying to research the Sheroes of the revolution? And, just about what kind of sources did you engage and such?
that.
What
Well,
challenge?
as I said, there are documents, there are books that were written prior to mine. Closer to us, Jasmine, I forget her last name, wrote something maybe early 90s for UNESCO about the women of Haiti. Uh, there is, in Canada, there is Claudette Desinor, who also wrote about, the women in Haiti in the 90s. So anyway, they are, but anytime you say you're going to do research, you're not going to have fun. It's not you just go there. It's not you Google it. You don't Google it and you have the information, right? And in my case, um, I wanted more than what was in books. I wanted more than what was on paper.
Yeah.
I felt it was necessary for us to know how do we view ourselves in the past. So I had to do a lot of walking up mountains,
Mm.
climbing in different places where people don't have television, don't have radios, they don't have, they know only what grandma told them, what grandma said to the grandma, to the other grandma, passed on down information. So I went
Yeah.
hunting. So, and that was very rewarding. You know, you would, there's some places like a woman like Marie Jeanne. When you
Mhm.
say Marie Jeanne, do you know anything about a woman called Marie Jeanne? Petit thème, yo. Marie Jeanne sort on the pas de femme, no. So people start to, what is that? Da 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 da. So some people just have other people, other places also. You might go to the Artibonite region, and people have tons and tons and tons of stories about Marie Jeanne. And then when you go to the South, Marie Jeanne, no, there was never such a person.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So that area does not know much about her. That's what it is. Not whether she existed or didn't exist. It's just that in some areas she's well known, other areas she's not known. Okay. But a woman like Marie Claire was, I don't care where I went,
Mm.
everybody. Some people said, no, it was Marie. No, no, no. That wasn't her name. She's Marie Claire. You go to this other region, she's Claire Heureuse. You go to this other place, she's Felicite.
Yeah.
It's Claire. This is how Dessalines always referred to her as Claire. So if people who get their information from family members who were close to Dessalines would always mention Claire as her name, not anything else. So it took a long time to collect and study, analyze, and make sense of, the descriptions of, so I did ask a lot of, well, what did she look like?
Mm.
Pisa, Ngwafam, Ngwafam. That was Suzanne Louverture. Everywhere somebody went, ah, Ngwafam. Semble di lo di Ngwafam. Ngwafam, li wo, li gra, li wo, Ngwafam. Tout le monde dit, Toussaint, son petit nègre bien chèche, tout petit. Dit oui, mais moi, c'est un gros femme. Well, it wasn't until I read something, the information of when she got arrested and taken to jail in France. And when they take you to jail, they weigh you on the day you come in.
Mm.
And she weighed 425 pounds. Li ton gros femme.
Wow. Okay.
They connaît bien.
Oui, yo te konen sa yo tap pale. Gros femme. So
Yeah.
that's
I love hearing
it's that
about
kind of stuff.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I love hearing about the people in our history that are kept alive in our oral history. And I found that I find that, you know, a lot of the established scholarly works that we refer to for Haitian history probably doesn't take that into account. But I remember going to Lembe and hearing stories about, like, they took me to a well and they said, oh yeah, the indigenous army used to throw poison down this well because the French drank out of it. And like, those are stories that you just hear by going to those towns.
Yeah.
And that established, like, white supremacist academia won't, you know, they won't take these kind of oral histories into account when making Haitian history. So I'm happy to hear that you went and spoke to people.
Well, of course, we are conditioned by school in our enemy's schools. We are conditioned to think if it's not on papers, it can't be true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that means we also condition not to take our elders' words seriously.
Yeah.
You know, if your grandmother say, take this for your fever, and you Google it and Google say, take that, you say, oh, grandma don't know what she's talking about. That's the way you are programmed to react. So, which is why most of us will not go. One example I have is Père Léon Nicolas. Père Léon is a natural griot. He is a historian in every cell in his body. And all the books written, I don't care. I would take Père Léon's word over the books any day. This is a man, when you ask him, Père Léon, qui président te connaît? Bon tout. Ni président grand-père te connaît, ni président papa te connaît, ni président moi-même me connaît. I was looking probably kind of doubtful. He said, oh. Bon, mwen 120 ans, mwen moitié l'âge pays ya pou m'pa ta connaît yo. The country is 200 years old. The man is 120 years old. He's more than half the age of the country.
Yeah.
So if he's not sick, if his mind is clear, he knows what he knows. And
What did you say his
doubt
name was?
Now, I said, okay, I mean, dis mon ti bagay. Léon Nicolas.
Okay.
So I said, I mean, ba mon ti loisye no, dim so ka dim, so sonje pe Léon. Premier chef pays, ça, son nek ki te rele Dessalines. Dessalines frappe pied go, li di tonne. L'esclavage ça faut le camper. So attendez ya. Toute l'armée gen problème. Toute l'armée blanc yo gen problème. Petit mwen, est-ce qu'on compte ça l'esclavage? Je dis, bon, m'a essayé de comprendre. L'esclavage, c'est les blancs qui ont fait net moi passer non Jésus-Christ. In one sentence, he told you exactly what it is. In our own tongue, in our own culture, in our own worldview. Okay? He doesn't need dates and this, that, and the other. No. He continues. He says, après, on est qui te relé Christophe. Christophe marqué l'esclave, marqué l'indépendance là. Ak wash, ouais, c'est pas j'oublié.
Wow.
Christophe built citadel, chateaux, this, the men constructed everywhere. Li dou pou Haïtien pas j'oublié l'indépendance là. Christophe marqué nan wash.
Yeah.
One sentence, he tell you the essence of Christophe.
Wow.
And he went like that down. He told me this one and this one and this one and that one. And I'm sitting there, I'm just fascinated. Then he get to, après ça, they go, Jean-Bertrand Aristide. Jean-Bertrand Aristide vin président 7 février. Aristide monte président, li prend coup d'état li, il mette dans valise li patak li.
Les bien dit.
Wow.
Après ça, vin gen un préval. Les préval monte, li tout trou dans la rue réparé. Tout trou dans vente fait yan. You don't understand because you were not there. You cannot understand.
Bella.
It's true. When Preval first became the first time he became president, his big program was to fix all the roads had a lot of holes, so get all the roads fixed. But yeah, he did a fine job fixing the roads, but people were starving.
Yeah.
So he said all the holes in the streets were repaired, but the holes in the bellies went yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
He told you exactly so that's what we mean when we say in the culture we have our own ways of speaking things, we have our own ways of expressing, and that's why you have a culture. Your culture tells you the essence. So if the culture was the base of the education, then you wouldn't have a situation where if you go to school, you look down on the one who doesn't, because we would still have all that culture in common.
Yeah.
You know, when the child who goes to school is singing Frère Jacques, dormez-vous? And the child who didn't go to school is Zombie man mana, we wa kebeti poulet, we wa ti poulet sauve, we wa. The two children can't play.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Whereas if we had our culture as the base of the instruction, all of our children would know how to sing all the same songs. So it's easy for the ones who go to school, the ones who don't go to school to play together and enjoy each other.
Yep.
That's so profound.
It is. So I would love to know, besides Pelion, what is like a fascinating thing you learned from these griots, like when you would travel across the country? What are some things that they told you that just surprised you that you didn't know?
I learned a lot. I learned immensely. For example, that song that I just sang, Zami man mana, we wa can beti poulet, we wa. Yeah, we all sang that.
Yeah.
But do we know what it means?
Not really.
We're thinking it's just a song. But there are no just song in your cultural songs. Every song has a meaning, it's based on something.
Yeah.
So one of the elders explained to me, when we say Zami man mana, we wa, we're responding to so it's usually sang with two groups, somebody's saying the first and the other group, the rest is saying we wa, responding to. So Zami man mana, we wa, kembe ti poulet.
We were.
Catch the chicken, right? Yes. Ti poulet sauve.
We were.
Bali la baset.
We were.
Madan wa bezwen, oui. Madan wa bezwen. Poul va
We.
fon bouillon. Ki bouillon liye. Bouillon kaka poule. What does that mean? The tipoulet in that song, that's us. When we ran away, they had the others to go catch us. But what happened is sometimes they decided they were not going to catch us. So even if they saw the one who ran away, we all are looking for him. Where is it? Baril la baset, baril boy, sit, baril bolot bo. But we see him, but we're not looking in that direction. So that's why in the final thing, when you say, what kind of soup that the king's wife is going to prepare? And we respond, bouillon caca poule. She will have the chicken doo-doo, but she will not have the chicken today.
Oh, wow.
My mind is blown.
I never heard that.
Me either.
Wow.
In
Wow.
some school,
Wow.
when they are at the nun schools and whatnot, when they allowed the children to sing it, the nun changed the last line and they would make the children say bouillon kalalou. But that makes no sense. Why do I need to catch the chicken if I'm going to make kalalou bouillon?
And Kalalu isn't a punishment.
Right.
I want her to eat the doo-doo.
Exactly. So that's the kind of thing that we need to, when you take your culture, you decode your culture, that's real intellectuality.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
The same is true when we sing a song like La reine soleil levé, oh, bon Dieu voyez l'aller. La reine soleil levé, oh, bon Dieu voyez l'aller. Si mon lit au crié, oh, bon Dieu voyez l'aller. La pluie tombée n'a planté pois. Ouais, n'a planté pois. La pluie tombée n'a planté toi. Ouais, ouais, n'a planté pois. Ouais, magazine. So, what does that mean? What information does it bring? See, we sing, but if we claim to be thinkers, we have to decode the information. All of the philosophy of Haiti is in the songs. So, number one, we say La Reine Soleil Levé, which means sun is a female entity in Haiti. In Haiti's culture, the sun is a woman, not a man. Number one. Number two, we say Timon Leo Kriye. We are the children of the sun. It's a very important element when you recognize that you are conceived in your perception of life. The sun, the queen's sun, is your mother.
Yeah.
So that means you yourself, your royalty, and you are the child of the most powerful, brightest in the galaxy. So you're not just anybody. See, we sing the song, but we don't decode it. And also, that song shows us how we always want things balanced. We always after justice. So we talk about the sun, how much we love her, blah, blah, blah. We're sad when she goes away, blah. But then we finish with saying, when the rain comes, we'll be planting food to eat. So we're going to be happy anyway. So rain is another entity. We respect her for her work, even though we are the children of the sun.
Yeah.
So these are the vital elements in our culture. And we need to understand our culture better. If we say we are intellectuals, it's not about French literature or German, whatever, or US, so and so. If you don't know nothing about your culture, you can defend what your ancestors created. I would say you're an illiterate.
Wow.
Professor Bello, we are just so happy we were able to do this tonight. And like, I think the biggest takeaway right now, at least for me, is that like there's just this huge disconnect in who we are because like there was a concerted effort to disconnect us from who we are. And I wonder if you could leave us like some last parting wisdom, considering that there's a lot of diaspora in the room. A lot of people are saying that their kids were so happy to hear you sing. There's a lot of diaspora in the room. There's a lot of non-Haitians in the room and Haitians in Haiti in the room. And I wonder what parting words you might have for us and how we can work together to better understand Haiti and to better connect with each other.
Well, for those who are at home in Haiti, I would say join Fondation Félicité so you can seriously work at becoming yourself again.
How can they do that?
At Fondation Félicité, we have um, every second Saturday of the month, we have Learn to Know Yourself seminar from 9 to 12. And every last Saturday of the month, we have Rencontre sous l'Histoire from 1 to 4. So these are two established programs to help people regain the knowledge of self and return to being who they truly are. Of course, the Foundation has lots of other programs, but I will only mention those two. Now, for those of us who are outside of the country, the connect has to be by internet, by email. There's a telephone, a WhatsApp. Our WhatsApp telephone is 2940 0869. 2940 0869. So by calling this number, you can get more information about Fondation and see where you want to participate in our work. But most importantly, just know that you are the child of Queen Sun. That means the way you are living today, and the way we have the country, the shape we have it in today, is not its real shape. And it's not your real shape.
Yeah.
And know that you can change it. No one else but yourself. No savior is coming from outside of Haiti to save you. The only savior has to come from right here, from within us. We have to rise from within, assume who we are, start to love ourselves again, so we can have the true revolution, the revolution that brings us into our true nature. And once we do this, instantly, IT will have the shape, the condition, the position that she deserves. I have no doubt that we can do it. And I have no doubt, in spite of everything, that that date is not very far away. Trust yourself and get to work.
Yeah. Get to work, friends.
Get to work, ayi bobo. Professor Bello, merci en pile. Mbakadou, merci assez. This is just such a dream come true. One, to hear you speak, but to just get all this information and all this education from you. You've given me so much to think about. Des fois, you think you know everything or close to everything that you think you can on a subject, and then here comes somebody who just blows open another
Nothing.
So I thank you so much, and I thank everyone for joining us for this discussion. I am pretty sure this is the first of many that we will come to bother you with, and I wish everyone a good evening.
Good night, y'all. Good night.
Thank you very much, and a great evening and a fabulous week to all of you. Take good care.
You too. Merci.